Hey, what's going on, guys? What's going on? I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Welcome to drboystv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. Today, I want to talk a little bit about Eboni K Williams, and otherwise known as the lady who refuses to date a bus driver. Eboni came out swinging this week. Eboni has been really on the defense. It's the best way to describe it. She was not sort of just coming out issuing an apology for her statement. She's pretty much coming out saying, yo, look, this is what it is. I don't care about your little feelings or whatever. And so Eboni, I don't know if you guys saw this. Give me a yes in the chat if you followed this story. Eboni K Williams, she did an interview with Iyanla Vanzant the other day where basically, and it was followed up with an interview with DJ Envy on the Breakfast Club. And basically, Iyanla asked Eboni, would you date a bus driver? And Eboni said, if he owned the bus. So this led to a whole uproar. The whole internet kind of went crazy. The Black community had a lot to say. I did a poll, by the way. I polled you guys because I was really curious. What do Black people think? About 80% of you said you would date a bus driver. I'd be curious to ask, just doing a straw poll inside this chat. How many of you would date a bus driver right now? Male or female? How many of you, give me a yes in the chat if you met a bus driver and they were nice to you and they treated you well and it was a good man, good woman, whatever, would you date a bus driver? Stephanie says no. She says no. I don't know if that means no, you wouldn't date a bus driver. Or no. Oh, she said she would date a bus driver. Okay. So Eboni basically said, I would not date a bus driver, and I'm not apologizing for that. And also, she took a really strong stance on the Breakfast Club, kind of almost arguing, I think. And we played our statement yesterday. My wife and I did a whole pillow talk about it. If you go to drboystv.com, you can see the pillow talk. And basically, she was sort of kind of equating the backlash against her statement to mean that there are people that are just addicted to mediocrity. They don't have a commitment to Black excellence. They're not trying to do better with their lives. And that's a problem. So she goes on to the Breakfast Club. DJ Envy and her really go at it. And Envy kind of makes an interesting point where he said, look, these bus drivers, these regular working class people that you seem to look down on, these are the people that buy your books. These are the people that sell out my shows. These are the people who listen to the Breakfast Club. So he was going out of his way to explain to her, it seemed, he and Charlamagne both were trying to explain that you're being offensive to people, right? And I don't know if she really heard that remark. I think that she was sort of stuck on her position, and it became really combative. Now, what's interesting about Eboni is, I don't know if you guys know about her. I looked her up on the internet. Whenever I talk about something, I try to make sure I know what the heck I'm talking about. So I said, look, I don't know this lady. I'm not here to judge this lady. And it ain't really about this lady. What this comment's really about is it's about the whole community. It's about how we all feel in terms of what makes somebody a higher quality partner versus somebody who is not a quality partner. One of the things I can tell you, again, my PhD's in finance, so I can tell you that there are studies that show that women are naturally going to be attracted on average to men who have more money. Ladies, give me a yes if you agree that financial security is important. Give me a yes in the chat if you want. You got to make guys understand this. And I think guys don't get it. I think guys think that a woman can live in the same chaos and volatility and be okay with that. And let me just tell you, I got a wife who had her own money when we got married. She didn't need my money, but I brought money to the table. She brought money to the table. Let me just tell you the difference between us, though. I can be in a dirty, filthy room that's full of chaos and stuff's everywhere. It drives my wife insane. Like literally, she can't be in a funky room. She can't be in a me. It don't matter. You got banana peels over here, dirty drawers over there. You know what I mean? Like whatever. Maybe when the carpet ain't been cleaned in a couple of weeks. I don't care because I'm a guy, right? Whereas my wife, she's a germaphobe. She's big on the germs. If we stay in a hotel and it's not a nice hotel and she feels like there might be bed bugs, she is not staying there. And the reason I was okay with this was because I've dealt with women before. I was raised by a mother every single day that showed me that men and women are not the same. And so that was an advantage that I had, that I understood women when I married my wife. So some of the things she does, they don't really surprise me. I just sort of, keep it moving. You just take it in stride. One thing that I think Eboni might be missing, and that we talked about this, my wife and I had a long pillow talk. Our podcast is called Pillow Talk. We talked about this yesterday. If you go to drboystv.com, you can hear her perspective. And I hope maybe she'll come in for a couple minutes here because there's more to talk about here. But I don't know if Eboni had that growing up, right? I don't know if Eboni had the privilege of having a father that was around her enough that she could evaluate men as anything other than an accessory or a commodity that she could add on almost like a detachable piece to the rest of her life. Give me a yes if you know what I'm talking about. I think that those of you who grew up with two parents in the house where you saw a real man, not a fantasy man, you saw a working man, not a man on TV, not a glamorous man. You saw a regular man with flaws. You did not see a perfect man. So here's the deal. Here's the problem. This is the issue I think Ebony's having, to be honest with you. I think that she's she's a person that has goals. She's smart. She's a lawyer. That's her ex-fiance, Mr. Magical White Guy. That's what I call him. I don't know his name, but he's a white dude, and DJ Envy called her out for that. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Not in a negative way, but in an honest way. And let me just tell you, I really wonder. My thought is, what did you, when you formed your expectation of what a man is supposed to be, where did you get that expectation from? Pay attention. I need y'all to hear this. What blueprint of a man did you witness growing up every day for hours and hours a day that gave you a template of what kind of man you would want? Because here's the problem. Here's what happens to ladies when you don't have a template. This is why I never want you to fall for the nonsense that says that growing up without your father in the house is not a big deal. It is a big deal. It is a big deal. Why? Well, because if you don't have a man around every day that can really show you that men, we are not perfect. We are not always Superman. We're not always, showing up with with arms full of muscles and a pocket full of money. We're vulnerable. We can have flaws. We can come up short sometimes. We can make mistakes. If you don't ever learn that as a little girl, then your image of a man is going to become some perfect guy that you saw on TV. It's going to be some guy that you fantasize about, in a movie. It's going to be maybe in some cases some guy that that really doesn't exist. And I've seen this happen so many times. And I want you to understand what I'm saying here. And some of y'all may not get it. Some people may think I'm crazy, and it's okay. I probably am a little bit crazy. So I own that. I own my crazy. But I want you to imagine a world. Imagine a world where 76% of all boys grew up without a mother. Imagine a world where 76%, because 76% of little black girls grow up without a father in the house. They have fathers, but their fathers are not in the home. I think it makes a difference. Imagine if 76% of all black men grew up without a mother in the home. First of all, let's start with the basics. Give me a yes or no. Do you think that will make a difference in terms of how these men choose their women? Give me a yes or no. Do you think that if 76% of all black men grew up without a mother in the house, like let's say mama lives down the street, mama lives across town, maybe I never saw mama, I never had a mom, or mom came by at Christmas and birthdays, but that's it. Do you think that, and I'm nailing this point in because y'all don't think about this enough. You don't understand the damage that was done to your community when they took away the family. You don't understand this. So I'm going to make this point so it can really drill in. Do you think, give me a yes or no, that if 76% of all black men grew up without a mother in the house, so let's say they have an involved mom, right? The mom comes by once a week. Maybe she picks him up once a month, right? Or maybe he sees his mom twice a year. Do you think that will make a difference in terms of how you view women? You bet your ass that it would. You could bet if you say no, then that means you need to get up out of here because that means you ain't smart enough to be part of this conversation. I'm sorry. If you think that it wouldn't matter, then you need to go look at all the studies that show that children that grow up without mothers, they become like serial killers and not all of them. I'm not saying all of them. I'm not saying every kid does. But seriously, y'all, when they talk about somebody who went out and murdered 5 or 6 people or been in prison since whatever, there's always some tragic story that involves their mom in a lot of cases where their mother left them when they were 5. DMX talks about how his mother, DMX, the great rapper who also happened to have a drug issue, who died way too young, should have been a billionaire. He should be living healthy, living large. He should be a billionaire like Dr. Dre. He should have more money than Dr. Dr. Dre because he was better than Dr. Dre, or as good anyway. Dr. Dre didn't put out 2 #1 albums in his first year out as an artist. DMX did that. He did that. Shout out to DMX. DMX tells a story about his mama and how his mama said that they're going to go visit the local orphanage, I guess, to give them Christmas gifts or whatever. His mama takes him to the orphanage and leaves him there. She literally leaves him when he's like 5 years old. And do you know that when he was on his deathbed and he was dying, he started crying because his mother left him when he was a baby. That never went away. That never goes away. So I want to take a moment and have some empathy and really hope that you will open your heart to try to really understand how some of these young Black women feel when they don't have their daddies around. I know that we're taught that it doesn't matter. I know that we're supposed to move on like it's okay. I know that you have the strong Black woman persona that you got to maintain as if it's just a bump in the road. I know y'all can do anything. You got the degrees, you achieved all the goals, but you went through something pretty fucking traumatic. I don't know what I would do if I grew up and my mother just wasn't there. You know, my father was great, but my father can't be a mama. Just like my mama can't be my daddy. And so when I looked at Eboni K Williams and I read her story and I said, okay, no father, okay, I get it. So she's basically doing something that I've seen happen 1,000 times. She is a highly successful, highly educated Black woman, you know, shield and armor, shows up for everything, kicks ass, takes names, who is basically looking for a man that doesn't really exist. I'm not saying that they never exist, but they're very, very rare. She's looking for that man that can fit whatever image she formed of what her daddy would have been if her daddy hadn't have been AWOL for whatever reason it occurred. And that's the other thing too. People don't talk about this either, that sometimes daddies are not there because the mothers are the ones who chose to keep the daddy away. So let's not act like it's always the daddy's fault. Those stories are starting to come out. Those parental alienation stories are starting to come out. Those forms of child abuse are starting to come out. They're actually therapists. My wife is a therapist and she's a full professor of social work. Again, shout out to educated Black women. I married one. I wanted to marry one. I ain't gonna lie. I'm not gonna say I'm not nothing against bus drivers, but my wife is not a bus driver. And if she had been a bus driver, I don't know if I could have. I don't know if I would have married her, but I don't know what I would have in common with her. But doesn't mean I don't like. There are truck drivers that follow me, bus drivers that follow me. I love y'all, but we might be a little bit different. So here is. So I said, wipe my mouth. Okay, how about that? Did I satisfy your criteria? Am I good? Am I good? All right, here we go. All right, so here's the thing. Let's get back to the issue at hand. I think that she has a right to have a preference, right? And I think that's the part that I don't like. I don't like the vitriol, you know, because usually when you like go off, if you go off on a woman because she told you that she prefers a man that owns a bus, and okay, surprise, surprise, like she's not the first woman to want a man that has some money. Like that's pretty common. That's a normal thing. Just like there are men who want big booties or men who might want a woman with long, pretty hair. Like that's okay. It's okay to have a preference. In fact, I even think about 20 something years ago when I dated a lady who had really short hair, and she said she got these extensions, right? And she said, I noticed that you're more affectionate toward me. She was doing, she's on the neck swinging tights. She's like, I noticed you're more affectionate toward me when I have my extensions in, but you're not that affectionate when my hair is short. And I said, to be honest with you, you want the truth, or do you want me to tell you what you want to hear? She said, I want the truth. And I said, okay, well, the truth is that I'd like women with hair. I'm sorry. I'm not being mean. I'm not trying to disparage your right as an independent woman to have, you could be as bald as Michael Jordan if you want to, and that's your right. But I'm not attracted to men or people, or I'm not attracted to people that have hair as short as I do. That's just not my thing. And it was my right to say that. She got offended, she got pissed off or whatever. But it was my right to say that. So I think that Eboni K Williams had a right to say, I would date a man who owned the bus. I wouldn't want to date the bus driver. I think that's perfectly within her right. I also think that Iyanla Vanzant kind of asked her an unfair question, to be honest with you. The interview wasn't about her. The interview was about the topic. And I think that, saying, would you date a bus driver is a tough question to answer because you're putting her on the spot. And her answer can't at that point be a reflection of what she feels. It has to be some representation. It became a manifesto on the on the the relevancy or the ability of a woman to tolerate the fact that a man might be a bus driver. It became sort of a broader discussion that had a lot more to do with us as a community than it does about who she wants to date. I know plenty of women out here who want to date a man who owns the bus. I have talked to you guys consistently on this platform about the fact that I think every black man needs to try to own a bus. I'm tired. I don't know if y'all how much y'all enjoy getting kicked around by white people, but I don't like that shit. I don't like being a white man's bitch. I'm sorry. No disrespect if you're white. I don't dislike you, but I'm not going to be your little boy. I'm not going to be your little girl. I'm not going to be your beta male. I'm not going to be your punk. That's not how God built me. And I think that there are lots of men out there who also are built the same way. Those tend to be my friends. My friend Willie D, you know Willie from the Ghetto Boys. Maybe that's why we're friends. Willie D is not going to be a white man's bitch. He's not interested in that. And so as a result, you have to acknowledge the fact that there are just different types of people. There are different types of people, different kinds of preferences, different interests. And I think that what happened was that her saying, I wouldn't date a bus driver, became some sort of broad statement as if she's a black leader who's saying bus drivers are not dateable. No, it's like saying, for example, my wife, I'm gonna bring my wife in here so I can just be quiet because y'all know me when I get to talking, I'm gonna end up saying something that's gonna get me in trouble. But I'm gonna bring my wife in here so we can get a balanced perspective. My wife is not a fat woman. My wife takes good care of herself. Babe, I think you are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. And I wrote that in my journal the day that I met you. And so if somebody said, Boyce, would you marry a woman that's 450 pounds? I'd be like, well, no, I would not. Right? I wouldn't do that. And I wouldn't expect you to say, oh, Dr. B is fat shaming. No, I'm not fat shaming. I'm telling you that I like a woman that's in shape. I like the fact that my wife works out every day. It makes me work out every day. I like that part of who she is. So I think everybody has a right to have preferences, right? So I think that this I think that with Eboni, I thought some of the criticism was a little bit unfair. Babe, I'm gonna let you do some talking. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the criticism was unfair and it went overboard. And I think that her agenda, Eboni's agenda, was to, when she saw Iyanla Vanzant talk about femininity and masculinity on the Breakfast Show, when she was talking about her program for women, I think Eboni really wanted to explore a little further with Iyanla Vanzant about the statistics, about how difficult Black women have in their lives in picking a mate and choosing a mate. Yeah, we can get into our femininity, but there's instances where we want to do better and we want to put ourselves out there in the dating pool, but sometimes we feel like some of the men are coming up short. And I think she was speaking from that perspective. And I think from that perspective, there's a lot of Black women that would agree. And even you would even agree. Sometimes men need to step up. And so I think that's when she brought Iyanla Vanzant on the show, I really do think that she wanted to talk about some of the struggles that Black women, rightfully have in dating. And Iyanla Vanzant wasn't really trying to talk about dating. And I know I saw Iyanla Vanzant's response this morning. She aired it this morning. I saw clips of it. And Iyanla was like, listen, this was not a conversation about dating. This was a conversation about my program. And I think Eboni had an agenda and Iyanla Vanzant had a different agenda. And I think that was kind of like the mismatch. And then when she was on the Breakfast Club, she was very well prepared to talk about the struggles of Black people from the Breakfast Club. But I think what she wasn't necessarily ready to acknowledge or to confront was how she may have came across as sort of condescending to people who drive the bus and did things like bus driving and garbage men or whatever the types of positions that people have that maybe as a lawyer, she might not think. Yeah. And then she got into it with DJ Envy and oh my goodness, it just did it
Yeah,
probably
she's
didn't
still.
go as well as she had hoped, but yeah, she's not altogether wrong. I don't think she's wrong, and yeah, you're right. People do have preferences, and they shouldn't be embarrassed by their preferences. I don't think Ebony was in the position to talk about her. She didn't even want to talk about what she wanted. She had a different agenda, and so I don't know. You know,
Well, let me say this. I think that she it was a tough conversation that happened in the sense that one thing I can say is that I didn't like about Ebony's response is she gave that whole speech about Black excellence, right? And that
yeah.
that the reason that she's pushing Black men to do better is because she believes in them and believes we can do great things and all this other stuff. And then she says something like, most of y'all are those y'all criticizing me are the same ones who made season D's on your report card or something like that,
Oh my
right?
God,
And
that's not good.
right, and I think that the problem with that is that she is criticizing Black men while she was engaged to a white man. I think that's a no-no. I really do. It doesn't mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think there's anything wrong with marrying who you want to marry. I think that, I have people in my family that married outside the race, and it's fine. If you're a nice person, you treat them well, then I think it's beautiful. But if you're not in the trenches with Black women choosing Black men, but you're standing on the sidelines saying, I gave up on the fight, but I'm gonna still throw my little 2 cents in there. Well, your 2 cents ain't even worth a penny. Like you're right at that point. I think think about this. You have more of a right to express your concerns about Black men because you married a Black man and you're in the fight. Like you're in the battle. You're dealing with me and my triggers and my trauma and everything else. And same thing with, vice versa. I can say things. I think I have more of a license to say things about Black women because that's all I've ever dated my whole entire life. When I thought about getting married, I never thought about marrying a woman who wasn't a Black woman. Right. But I saw guys who were like, oh, no, get a passport, go to another country. Oh, no, I date a white woman because they don't do these things Black women. Well, the thing is, we all went through these horrible experiences called slavery and Jim Crow. We went through these things together and we all were damaged by these things. We all saw our families getting broken up. We all went through the war on drugs. We all went through the mass incarceration epidemic together. So we're all affected by this. And I think that the fact that she's like, no, well, I'm just going to go and date this guy who's not Black. But yet I'm still gonna, be in the peanut gallery talking shit about Black men. I think that that's a problem. If she had a Black husband, I think that would give her more credibility, than somebody who's like I'm gonna live in the suburbs, but I'm gonna talk all day about the hood. I don't think you can really do that. I think that a person who lives there has more license to speak on it than somebody who's talking about it from a distance.
Yeah, it just seemed like she was frustrated with trying to find an eligible Black man. And so her answer to that was to broaden her horizon and explore other races, right? I think that's what she was implying. And I think, rightfully so, a lot of women are very frustrated with dating. I talk to a lot of single people, single women, and they're just like, I'm a good woman. I'm willing to do any and everything in a relationship. I just can't find a good eligible man, and I want to date a Black man. They do feel like they are frustrated, and they do feel like the odds are against them. That's how they really feel, and I think that's what she was speaking from. So we don't know. All we know, she was engaged to this guy, but we don't know her dating history. And I think Ebony was trying to say, it ain't even about my dating history. Let's just look at the stats. Let's look at the stats about where Black women are in their position as a group and where Black men are in their position as a group. And what should we do in trying to find, an eligible person to get married and have kids with and start a family? I think she was speaking for a lot of Black women in that instance.
I think she was. But here, actually, I'm gonna make a point in 1 second. But before I do that, if everybody could please help us with housekeeping, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Dr. Alicia, my wife, is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. Her website is coachingwithdralicia.com. She sees clients, individual, families, couples, all that stuff. So feel free to go take a look at what she does. And also, my website is boycewatkins.com. My new book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. I will be in Dallas May 19th doing a 2-day Black Wealth training camp. So if you'd like to join us, just go to boycewatkins.com and you can get more information, etc. All right, so let's one thing. Here's one thing I'm going to mention about the Eboni K Williams thing that's really interesting is, isn't it fascinating that Iyanla said, "Would you date a bus driver?" And Eboni says, "If he owns the bus." Right? She kind of had some attitude when she said, and not with one time did either one of them even mention the race of the bus driver. I mean, it was just implied that it was a Black conversation because it was between two Black women. But here's the interesting thing. But when Eboni responded to the criticism, she was responding in reference to Black men. She talked about Black men seeking mediocrity and Black men can do better. And Black men, the Black men criticizing me are the ones who, probably made bad grades in school. And so what I really thought was interesting with that was that I was like, at what point did it really even become a racial conversation? Like, I mean, I'm thinking about it as a racial conversation because I tend to think in Black, but why wouldn't it just be, look, to all men, and I'm not talking about just Black men. I know many Black men who are excellent, many Black men who are not so excellent, but any man out there, white, Black, Asian, Italian, because she said I've done them all, right? So that was just such a crazy, horrible choice of words. She said,
well, I don't know. I would hope to think that she doesn't mean doing them all. I would hope. Let me rephrase. I would hope that she would say, like, I'm open to it all and I've explored it all. I think that's
I think what she meant. Yeah, we're not gonna try to make her into Cardi B or something. But here's the thing, though. I wonder if the conversation could have been one that was done without making reference to race. Like why would you assume that this is all just about Black men when we know that there are men of all ethnicities who choose to be bus drivers? And here's the thing, that, everybody doesn't have the same level of capability. I had to learn that. I used to think, oh, I got a PhD in finance. Everybody can do it. I'm sorry. I don't think everybody can do it.
No.
that shit was hard. I think my IQ had to be kind of high. I sat in class with a girl who had the 6th highest math score in China, like something like crazy like that. Like that's ridiculous. That's sick, right? So it's like just like basketball. Like everybody can't be Michael Jordan, right? So I think that it's definitely not just what she said; it's really how she said it. It's also how she responded. Yeah. And I think that I'm wondering, I'm guessing her brand is probably going to be better because that's the thing in this industry, that whole Real Housewives space, you get the money from people. You don't get the money from people liking you. You get the money when people hate you. When you become that person that everybody loves to hate, that's when you start getting that big money. So I see her really looking at this and saying, you know what, this is good for my career. I'm going to own this. I'm going to be the Black female Tucker Carlson and have half the country hate me. But both halves are going to watch me, and that's going to make me rich and powerful, which is probably what she's invested in her whole life.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I think looking at the comments and what she's been through, I think that she was uncomfortable with the interpretation everybody had. And I think she was a little surprised by the interpretation. Like, wait, I'm rattling off figures. Like, this should make sense. So I think that she's not, and maybe she's had some time to reflect, but maybe she needs some time to kind of reflect on what she said and how she said it and how it came across to people, which was really what DJ Envy, is that his name? That's really what DJ Envy was trying to say to her. He was like, listen, we all agree with you. We all agree with what you're saying, but do you realize you hurt some people's feelings in the way you came across to people? And she didn't even want to go there. She was like, this ain't about feelings. I don't really care about feelings. And she wanted to double down on her stats and statistics and whatever she was prepared to say. And I think that was the issue. And if anyone saw that, saw her on there, like DJ Envy was kind of like, he was kind of looking at her like, all right, let's just get her through. He was a little kind of annoyed with her on that show. And yeah.
Let me show you something that she put on her page. Ebony's been fighting. I mean, Eboni is not She ain't
Yeah.
just backing off with some apology. She put this chart on her Instagram page. And what she did was she was looking at, and y'all know me, I'm interested because you're talking about wealth. Like that's my thing, right? We talk about the racial wealth gap all the time here. And she shows here that when you look at median household income in the United States by ethnic group, you've got Indians at the top, Filipinos number two, Taiwanese Americans, then Sri Lankans, Japanese, Malaysian, boom, 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 keep going, looking for the African Americans, looking for the African Americans. Oh, there they are, right at the very bottom. Right
Yeah.
at the very bottom. And you're not even, and remember that, so you're talking about income. The real chart, the real dirty chart, the ugly chart is wealth, not income.
Oh,
Income,
yeah.
you can increase income pretty easily. Wealth takes some planning and strategy, right? So when it comes to the wealth chart looks even worse than the income chart. And so it seemed to me that she's basically saying we can do better. And I don't know if that, what do you think about that?
Well, the thing is, okay, this chart's not surprising, right? And that's what on the Breakfast Club, that's what Charlemagne the God was saying, was like, yeah, we can get on board with everything you said, but can we point to 400 years of slavery? What makes African Americans so unique here? You know, what can we point to? Reparations? Can we point to all of the stuff that's owed to us and some of these structural issues? I think that's what Charlemagne was trying to say. Can we also broaden this conversation to include that? Can we also broaden this conversation to say you were a little condescending to your public? You know, he was trying to say, yes, all of us agree with this, but let's talk about some of these other things. And he was trying to raise her awareness of that. And she was not having it on that show. She was ready to talk about what she wanted to talk about, which was things like this chart. But I think she's missing the point.
Yeah, she was definitely missing the point. But then she's making another point. And I think that you can say
to each other.
No, right. I think that the delivery kind of hurt the ability to get the message through. And I understand that. You know, I've sometimes you say something very direct and it comes off in the wrong way. I believe, Lord knows I've done that a million times. And
Everybody's done it. Everybody's done stuff.
We've all done it, right? And I think that, you know, and I think that the challenge for her is she's not able to filter, you know, a more diplomatic statement from the fact that she's got her own baggage that she's carrying. Remember, you're probably talking to a lady who may be mad at her daddy. She may be upset because she's had dating experiences that went bad. She's 40 years old, never been married, no kids. She invested 4 years in the magical white guy. I don't know his name. That's his nickname on this platform. He's the magical white guy right there. She invested 4 years in this man in her 30s, and it didn't work out. So even he disappointed her, and he wasn't no bus driver. He's a CFO. So even the man who wasn't the bus, you talk all day about I want to get a man who owns a bus. He looks like he might own a bus, he can afford to own one. But even the guy who owned the bus has disappointed you, wasted your time. You're 40. It's much harder to have kids after 40. Not impossible, but look at the medical journals. Don't believe me. It's very difficult. So maybe there's like some irritation there, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, actually, the best part of the interview with she and Iyanla Vanzant was parts where she was being vulnerable. She was vulnerable in that interview. She said, yeah, I did not have my father around. And she said, you know what? Actually, I probably should sign up for your class because that's something that I feel like I need to reflect on. And it's probably something that could be very useful to me. Those were great moments in that interview. So, I think out of context, that little clip that the griot put out, it was a little out of context. So a lot of people don't even go back and watch the entire 23 minutes or whatever of that interview between them. And even Iyanla Vanzant got real vulnerable. And she said, look, I used to be hard. I was told to be hard and tough. And that's how women should be. But I've learned to be soft and things have gone better for me. And, she wants to heal. Iyanla Vanzant sounded like she wants to heal Black women. And she kept talking about, what's happening on the inside affects everything around you. And so she wanted to start there. And those were really tender moments in that interview that I think made her look way better. It made her look better when she was able to say, it's tough. It's tough out here. But on the Breakfast Club, she did not feel the need to be tender. She came on there pretty aggressive, and she was pretty defensive. And that doesn't work because defensiveness tells us that she was not able to listen to what DJ Envy was saying and give a real honest response, to the fact that people's feelings were hurt by that comment and how it was interpreted. She really needed in that moment to be a little tender, and she doubled down on her hardness. And that didn't go over well.
Right.
I don't think
Well, I think that you're right. When you're used to having to defend yourself, then then that's the approach you're going to take, right? So I think and I heard her point to basically say, how can I sit back and just be feminine, weak, and vulnerable, or not weak, but feminine and vulnerable, or put my crown on and everything else when I don't have what I consider to be adequate protection, from men. And I've seen good women who felt that way, not women who were trying to be mean, but women who were being honest. And I think that what I would say with Eboni is that I don't necessarily, Ebony's not the type of person I would marry, to be honest with you, or date.
I can never see you.
Yeah, well, you look at these Housewives shows. I mean, look at those ones. They look like 5 witches. She's the pretty one, because black don't crack. Black women are just prettier than everyone else. Those other women, they look scary. I would not want to be in a room alone with any woman on that screen right there. Not one of them. Eboni, I think, again, if you just look at straight attractiveness, she dominates those other women in terms of. It reminds me of a friend I have named Claudia Jordan. Claudia was on those shows, and Claudia, when I first met her, I in my mind I kind of assumed she was similar to the other women on the show. And no, Claudia is a kind, decent person. She's very intelligent and very thoughtful about the Black community. I think Ebony's trying to be that, right? And I think Eboni and Claudia are actually friends, which makes sense to me. But in general, I think that when you're just talking about some of that culture that we glorify in media, it is so harmful to men and to women. There's nothing appealing about any of these so-called housewives. I don't think any of them are married to anybody. And a lot of them haven't been married to anyone. So I don't know how you call yourself a housewife when you haven't been married. I don't know. That's a loophole I'll never understand. But then also remember this too. You got to pay attention now. When a woman like Eboni shows up and basically says, "Look, Black man, you're not really competing at an adequate level. You're not being the man that you're capable of being. Sure, you can nurse someone to a higher level, but sometimes you got to get kind of slapped a little bit. You kind of have to be my father, and this is where I'm going to go a little old school. My father tells me stories about how my grandmother, when she would come short of the money and she didn't have no money, this is back in Jim Crow, this is before integration, before the 1960s, and if she didn't have enough money to pay the bill, she'd be pissed and she'd be like, fix it. And you know what he would do? My father said he watched my grandfather walk out that door and he said, I'll take care of it. And he would go take care of it. And somehow he'd come back with the money. And I'm going to tell you, that sort of solidness, sturdiness, no excuses approach to life, I think we can learn from that. Maybe not so much from Eboni. Maybe Ebony's not the one to teach us that. But if you go beneath, her baggage and the issues and the things that offend us, I actually advocate for that. I think that as Black people, we got to take a moment and say, okay, yeah, there's systematic variables everywhere. We know the white man's conspiring against you every day. We know that everything's stacked against you. We know all that. That's defined. That's true. It's been written. It's been documented. Fine. Now, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it when you're sitting around and you are glorifying and looking up to rappers who are literally putting out music that is destroying Black boys, getting them hooked on drugs, getting them to want to go to prison? Are you saying something about it, or are you admiring this? Right? Are you looking up to toxic behavior, or are you calling it out and saying, I'm not doing that? Right? Are you engaging in this anti-intellectual culture where we make fun of little Black kids because they make good grades and people say you're acting white? Where you celebrate the basketball player in high school more than you celebrate the kid who got an A on the math test. You need to confront that culture. So, because the problem you have is that when you put yourself in that victim box where it's like, oh, well, it's the system. The system is stopping me. That's why I can't do anything. Then what you're doing is you're giving yourself an excuse to be a lazy ass. Right. And so I'm going to carry a little bit of the baton for Eboni on this. I'm not saying I agree with her 100%. There's a lot of things I didn't like a lot of this. Right. But I'm going to carry a little bit of the baton and say, Okay, yeah, you know the system's stacked against you. It was stacked against your granddaddy too. But your granddaddy, if he was a solid ass black man like my granddaddy, he got up and he still fought with whatever he could. And I think that that's what I'm talking about the good women now. I'm not talking about the gold diggers. I'm not talking about the bad women. I'm talking about the weak women. The good women, I think that's what some of them are feeling is they're like, look, man, if you drive a bus, that's okay. But just show me that you're getting up every day and fighting for something. If you're not fighting, if you're like, oh, well, the system has me in a box. That's why I don't take care of my kids. That's why I drink all day. That's why I sit around and don't do anything positive. Well, don't nobody want to hear that shit. I don't think women are wired to want to put their lives and the lives of their children in the hands of a man who ain't ready to fight. So that's all I would say to people. It's like the question you have to ask yourself every day is, are you fighting? You know, the oppression's there, the racism's there, the system's there. Yeah. Okay. But are you fighting? And I know, I'm sorry, I have to be honest. I know a lot of brothers who ain't fighting. And if I was a woman, I wouldn't want to be with them either. So that's just my honest truth. Go ahead, babe.
Yeah, well, I think if you ever came to me and there was some financial issue, I would never say, get out there and fix it. I wouldn't say that to you. I would look at you and I would say, let's fix it. We're in this together. It would not like I don't think men want to be treated like an ATM. You're just an ATM machine to me. It's just like pay the bills and then get out of my face and let me go get my nails and my hair done and let me go fix all this materialistic stuff and just pay the bills and that's all I want you for. I don't think men want to be seen. They don't want to be treated in that way as someone who's just using them. And I also think that, yeah, you can be pretty on the outside, but it's also important, you know, like Iyanla Vanzant tried to say, to be also pretty on the inside. And men want teammates. Women want teammates. They want somebody. It's just the two of you against the world. And I think that's beautiful and romantic. Like, yeah, we don't have what we need right now, but we're going to work together, pull our resources together, and get what we want. So I think that's what men really want, based on what I'm hearing from men and based on what I know in my practice. Men want somebody to be a teamwork. They don't want to be like a horse. Just ride this horse.
Well, you know, I do agree with you. I think it's not nothing's a one size fits all kind of thing, right? It kind of depends, and I think you're right in the sense that I've seen some men who would complain to say that when they do show up as competent and hardworking and intelligent, they still don't get that respect and trust and authority that they would like to have to be able to be an adequate partner in the relationship, right? Like there's nothing more frustrating than to be a competent man who's dealing with a woman who's only dealt with incompetent men, because then you're just constantly bumping heads and it's constantly a power struggle. It's like trying to drive a car when somebody else is used to holding the steering wheel. At that point, you just leave. You say, okay, you know what? You drive the car. I'll just get out. I'll go get my own car, and then we'll just be driving our own cars. And that's what the Black family has become. That's one of the reasons why Black household income is lower than everybody else, is because most of your families aren't even consistent of two people. I'm flying airplanes now, you know that, and an airplane with one engine can't do what an airplane with two engines can do. You know, an airplane with two engines is stronger. It has more power. It can go further. It can go faster. With that one engine breaks, then that plane can literally, not only is it slower and weaker, but it can go into a tailspin and crash. And that is a great way to describe the Black family. We need more two-engine households than one engine. And then at that point, you find your income rising.
We're better together, boys.
I think we are. And God bless everybody for listening. And I want to let everybody know, this is my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. Dr. Alicia is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. And she sees clients on an individual basis, and as well as couples and families and stuff. So if you want to know what she does, just check out coachingwithdralicia.com. She's written some books and all kinds of stuff. What's up, Juiced Up Reese? I see you in there, girl. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, and my website's boycewatkins.com. My background's in finance, and I'm going to be in Dallas May 19th doing a 2-day Black Wealth training camp. So if you'd like to network with other wealth builders who think the same way you do, also you can feel free to check out my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. I hope you consider either joining us in Dallas, or you can also get a copy of the book on Amazon. And we also have your back in the Black Business School. And this podcast is on Spotify. If you look up Boyce Watkins on Spotify, you can find it. You can listen there too. All right, everybody. God bless you. Please hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. We got pizza upstairs, and I'm taking the kids to see John Wick. So we about ready to party up in here. So everybody have a good night, and thank you again, babe. It's good to see you. I'm gonna hang up on you, then run to your office and give you a big kiss. I'll see you all later. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.